And welcome to episode 3 of Talking Smarks here on AIM Student Radio, the way radio should be. I'm Josh here with another episode, a slightly more injury-filled episode than the two previous installments, but it's been an injury weekend in the professional wrestling industry, and we'll have it all here for you. Before I get started on that, I just wanted to say on the YouTube version of the show that I upload, you won't hear it, and unless somehow I get a lot of money or I get the license, you probably won't hear it. But when I actually do this show live on AIM Student Radio, I actually use Cult of Personality by Living Color, which is CM Punk's theme song, of course, the best in the world, the AEW World Champion, or so we think. I'll get more on that here in a bit, but I'll go ahead and get started, not with an AEW bit, but actually a WWE bit, which somewhat has to do with AEW. Cody Rhodes, who was famously one of the executive vice presidents and one of the founders of AEW, one of the reasons that AEW even exists right now, who earlier this year left AEW, returned to WWE to a huge fanfare at WrestleMania this year. He took on Seth Rollins. He has been a victim of the injury bug. Unfortunately, looks like he had a torn pectoral muscle. But in a shocking revelation, Sunday night was WWE's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Cody Rhodes was scheduled to compete in a Hell in a Cell match against Seth Rollins. Despite the torn pectoral muscle, he competed. WWE actually released a post about Cody's injury, and I'll go ahead and read it off here for you. This is from WWE. Rhodes suffered a partially torn right pectoral tendon during a brawl with Rollins this past Monday on Raw. Rhodes kept this very quiet, but on Friday, while weight training in preparation for his match, the tendon tore completely off the bone. Cody went on to compete against Seth Rollins, won the match, competed the entire match, which was an instant classic. With the torn pectoral muscle, after the pay-per-view went off the air, Cody decided to address the audience and stated that it was his decision to compete tonight. And this is from the audio captured from Cody by people in the crowd, saying, and I quote, "I'm sure I'm going to explain things a little further tomorrow on Raw. I'll be very brief. No one convinced me with a torn pec to come out here. It was solely my decision. You would have to literally kill me from staying away from this ring. 10 times out of 10, I would have made the same decision." Now, I will give props to Cody on this. Wrestling is a business where, quite simply, you have to be tough to survive. It's an industry where you're literally getting thrown around a ring, through tables, hit with weapons, in this case, going through a Hell in a Cell match, and continuing to make it to the next show in the next town the next day. You got to be tough to do this. And for him to choose to compete in a very brutal match, despite having this kind of injury, he could have easily said, "Hey, I'm injured." And if you see the pictures on social media, the injury, it is nasty. No one would have blamed him for it. I wouldn't have blamed him for it. If it was me, I'll be honest, I probably wouldn't have done that. But I will give him props and all the credit for doing so. And now let's go ahead and get into the main bread and butter of the episode, which was this past Friday's episode of AEW Rampage, coming to you from a sold-out Toyota Arena in Ontario, California, also known as the home of the Young Bucks. The show actually kicked off with the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. They've had a classic rivalry over the years, giving us some of the most awe-inspiring matches so far in the short history of AEW. The Escalera de la Muerte match at All Out 2019, the Steel Cage match at All Out this past year, both utterly insane matches, and here we have just a regular tag match, but anytime you put these two teams in the ring, it was an instant classic. The Young Bucks win in classic heel faction after taking Penta's mask off, which in the world of Lucha Libre, that would be considered an immediate disqualification. In AEW, it is not. Penta covered up his face, allowing the Bucks to get the win. This was immediately followed by the team of Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs taking on just a pair of local competitors from the area. I'm not even sure that their names even read on the screen, if I'm being honest. If somebody else saw it, go ahead and correct me on that. This was an absolute squash match, just meant to show Starks and Hobbs' dominance, and more than likely going to make another run at the AEW World Tag Team titles soon. This wasn't even a 2-minute match at most. The entrances probably lasted longer than the match itself. Up next, we had Kiera Hogan, a segment, I should say, between Kiera Hogan and Athena. Kiera Hogan comes out with Jade Cargill and, correct me right there. It's been a long week, folks. I apologize. This was a full match between Kiera Hogan and Athena. This is Athena's AEW debut. Kiera Hogan, of course, comes out with Jade Cargill and Red Velvet, so you have the whole baddie section there. Athena comes out wearing these really cool-looking mechanical wings to go with her gimmick of being the fallen goddess. It was a pretty good back-and-forth match. Athena picks up the win. Looks like they are still continuing to set up potentially a trios match down the line with Jade and the baddie section versus Athena, Chris Statlander, and Anna Jay. This was immediately followed by a segment from the House of Black back at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. It was officially revealed that Julia Hart, after months and months of speculation, is the newest member of the House of Black. This segment was mostly to formally introduce Julia as a new member. I got to admit, I love the dark gothic look that they're going with Julia on this as part of the House of Black. I can't wait to see more. So now the real question for me is, who are they going to set up to take on the House of Black now? You had the original trio, so you had Malachi Black, Buddy Matthews, Brody King, and now Julia Hart. So who are they going to throw together to take this team on? Because now not only is it just obviously the three men, but you have Julia Hart in there as well. So that means if you want to do a 4-on-4, you're going to have to throw in a trio and a woman in there at some point. We'll see where this goes. I'm excited for it. And now comes probably the most heartbreaking segment of that entire episode of Rampage. I'm not going to lie, watching this live, I was going, no, absolutely not, like this can't be real. CM Punk, the AEW World Champion, comes out to the crowd visibly upset. Now, there have been rumors circulating around the wrestling community throughout the day of being possibly injured on Wednesday during AEW Dynamite. During the last portion of the match, he did look visibly injured, looked a little bit shooken up, wasn't really walking too well. Comes out injured, and this is where it does get a little bit confusing, but I'll clarify closer to the end. The way that the promo sounded, it sounded like CM Punk was relinquishing the AEW title. He stated that he didn't want to hold anyone back while he was recuperating from his injury. He promises to come back and prove once again why he is the best in the world, to a huge ovation from the crowd. This was immediately followed by Dante Martin and Scorpio Sky for the TNT title in the main event of Rampage. I had mentioned this in a previous episode. It was about time that there was some fresh blood competing for the TNT title, and we finally got it. Both men putting off I can't really talk today. Pulling off a great match. Obviously, Dante Martin, one of the hottest up and rising stars in AEW right now. Scorpio Sky's been there since day one and continuing to prove that he's a workhorse. He can work with anyone, a grappler, a high flyer like Dante. He can do it all, and I'm really hoping that they do give Scorpio more high profile matches with the TNT title. I mean, he is the TNT champion for a reason. Let's not forget they are still in California after all. Scorpio Sky obviously has a new TNT title belt having the Los Angeles Lakers colors. His gear was Lakers colors. It's known in real life that he is a huge Lakers fan, even kind of looks like Kobe a little bit, but all in all, it was a pretty awesome show, stacked top to bottom, and where it got really confusing at the end, before the show went off the air, because this was a live episode of Rampage, they are cutting it down to the wire. They got to be off the air at their time, and the ring announcer, I want to say it was Excalibur, and if I'm wrong, correct me, announces that essentially the AEW title was not given up. CM Punk is still holding the title, and they very quickly tried to announce the plans for the AEW World title going forward, starting with this coming Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite. Just give me a few moments here. I'm pulling up the press release. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start reading it off. So this is a press release from AEW. All Elite Wrestling presents the AEW Interim World Championship Eliminator Series. During All Elite Wrestling's live broadcast of Rampage from Ontario's sold-out Toyota Arena, AEW World Champion CM Punk announced that due to injury, he would be out of action indefinitely. However, he would not be relinquishing the AEW World Championship. Following this development, AEW President and General Manager Tony Khan has announced the AEW Interim World Championship Eliminator Series beginning this Wednesday at AEW Dynamite on TBS. The multi-stage Eliminator Series will feature an exciting battle royal featuring many of the top competitors in AEW, which will open the broadcast of AEW Dynamite live this Wednesday, June 8th, from the Cable Dahmer Arena in Independence, Missouri, with the winner advancing to compete in the main event. That same night, the winner of the Battle Royal will meet former AEW World Champion and number 1 ranked Jon Moxley in an Eliminator match in the main event of Dynamite, with the winner advancing to compete for the Interim World Championship at Forbidden Door on June 26th, live from the sold-out United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Meanwhile, on June 12th, at New Japan's Pro Wrestling's Dominion event from the historic Osaka-jo Hall, highly decorated NJPW stars and longtime rivals Hiroshi Tanahashi and Haruki Goto will face off in an eliminator match for the interim AEW World Championship, with the winner also advancing to Forbidden Door on June 26th, live on pay-per-view. Now, this changed a little bit from the original plan. The original setup for Forbidden Door back before CM Punk got injured was we were going to have CM Punk versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. And it appeared to be for the AEW World title. It was never made clear, but that seemed like the angle that was being pitched. Obviously, with Punk being injured, this changed now. And finally, the winner of AEW's June 8th Eliminator match will face the winner of NJPW's June 12th Tanahashi vs. Goto Eliminator match in the main event of Forbidden Door on June 26th to crown the AEW World Champion. Keep in mind, Forbidden Door is a joint show between AEW and NJPW, the first of its kind. So it is possible that a New Japan signed talent could win the AEW World Championship, which would set the wrestling world on fire. That would be utterly insane. That'd be some straight up multiversal craziness. Finally, after AEW World Champion CM Punk is medically cleared to compete, the winner of the AEW Interim World Championship Eliminator Series will face CM Punk in an AEW World Championship unification match. This is going to be insane. So Punk is still the champion, technically. However, while he's recuperating, which as of right now, it's not known how long this will take, sounds like it's going to be a little bit more than a month if they're already planning to do an interim champion at Forbidden Door, which is close to the end of June on the 26th, of course. So that means we could potentially see, for example, in the main event of Forbidden Door, which would be utterly insane. I've been wanting this match. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Jon Moxley. That would be beautiful. It could be Hiroki Goto versus Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley may not even win the Battle Royal. It could be, there is quite a few talent in AEW right now that could make a claim to the title. Hangman Page could go for a shot of redemption. MJF could finally get his moment. Perhaps this could be the moment where he really has the leverage over Tony Khan to get that rumored big money extension and maybe keep him in AEW so he doesn't jump over to WWE. Bryan Danielson. No, it cannot be Bryan Danielson. So it sounds like Bryan Danielson has also injured. Like I said, the injury bug has hit hard, but it is speculated that he will be back by the time Forbidden Door airs. It could be Wardlow. It could be. There's quite a few names that could be making an argument for the championship. Chris Jericho could try to make a run and be a 2-time champion again. The door's wide open. It may not even be Mox at Forbidden Door for all we know. And we're not going to find out until Wednesday. I myself can't wait for it out of what could have been an ultimate disaster. Because CM Punk obviously selling all the merch. Every time he comes out and Cult of Personality plays, the crowd goes bonkers. Without the right booking, without the right roster, this could have fallen apart. This could have been a disaster for AEW, but it wasn't. Now we get the chance to see other potential dream matches. Forbidden Door is already shaping up to be, from the little bit we know so far, knowing the caliber of talent that AEW and NJPW both have. This is going to be an utterly insane show. I can't wait to watch it. I already have it ordered on pay-per-view. My pay-per-view bill this month is going to be pretty high, but it's worth it in the end. And that's it for today's episode of Talking Smarks. Follow the show on Twitter at Talking Smarks, where I also live tweet during AEW Dynamite and Rampage and the pay-per-views. Same handle goes for our Insta as well, where posts are made, and occasionally wrestling memes, because that's just part of the gig. Thank you for listening wherever you are.